Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fitriana and I would like to present my research proposal under the title Language Learner Autonomy, a case study of teachers' belief and practices in Indonesian secondary schools. The proposal will consist of introduction, literature review, and methodology. LA concepts have been viewed as a fundamental component of good teaching and learning. However, teachers' voices of LA have been paid little attention to, thus it is needed to conduct the research in this field. Some related research have been conducted, for example, Borg and Almari and Al-Busaidi, which investigates the teachers' views with regards to their definition of learner autonomy and the sources of these ideas. Nasri also conducted a study which aims to investigate teachers' practices for promoting learner autonomy in Iranian EFL high school context. Al-Rabai explores teachers' belief by considering their interpretation of the concept of LA and the role in foreign language learning. Borg and Al-Busaidi describes the beliefs and practices regarding learner autonomy held by English language teachers in University Language Center. Chan in 2003 focuses on the teachers' views of the roles and responsibilities and their assessment of their students' decision making. One study aims to explore university UFL teachers' perception and practices about LA. And in Indonesia, the study conducted by Lengkanawati, this research focuses on how LA perceived and experienced by school teachers and to find out the importance of LA training for professional development. However, these studies did not investigate the actual autonomy supporting teaching practices of EFL teachers. Moreover, the research involves a large number of research participants in which questionnaire and interview were the main instrument that the researcher involved, and the observation of the real classroom setting is never involved. As a result, the data obtained cannot represent the real practice of teacher autonomy in the class and get a deeper understanding of what the teachers say and do. Therefore, there is need to research on what the teacher perception as well as how they carried out into their teaching practices. This research is expected to bridge the gap between the theoretical interpretation of learner autonomy and teachers' perception of the concept, as well as how the teacher carried out into practices, and give a recommendation of what the teacher should improve in promoting LA. Thus, the research questions will be how do Indonesian EFL teachers define the concept of LA, and how do Indonesian EFL teachers promote LA. The aim is to find out how the teacher's perception of the concept of LA and to find out how the teacher implemented the concept of LA in their teaching practices. One limitation of this study is that it only investigates the teacher's perception from four perspectives: technical, political, psychological, and social, as well as their LA-based teaching practices, and only involve a small participants in particular institution, which the result might not be generalized. The concept of LA first appeared officially for the first time in the Second Language Education Council of Europe Modern Language Project by Holek in 1979. Thus, the definition by Holek is that the ability to take charge of one's own learning, while Littlewood states that one who has an independent capacity to make and carry out the choices which govern his or her actions, and Fuller defined as an inborn capacity which is supported by institutional education, and Benson said autonomous learners do not learn a language without interacting with the teachers or peers. Rather, they develop a sense of interdependence and work together with teachers and other learners to achieve a shared goal. While Nguyen states that learner willingness and ability to take responsibility to plan, implement, monitor, and evaluate. For the last free definition, this definition acknowledges that not only the learner's responsibility to learn independently, but also the teacher's responsibility in supporting learners as they develop learning autonomy. Therefore, it is essential to answer that teacher will understand the concept of LA. The concept of LA is generally influenced by a combination of three arguments: the ideological, the psychological, and the economic. While Morris acknowledged the multidimensionality of the learner autonomy construct by having reviewed several possible ways of categorizing the multidimensional construct, it seems that four main categories within the construct can be identified: the technical, the psychological, and the sociocultural autonomy. It has been emphasized by many researchers that the role of teachers in LA differs markedly from the role in traditional environment. The researchers separate that teachers act as counselor, advisor, and facilitator, which the main role is planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating. Fuller in 1997 also identified that the idea of teacher as facilitator of learning is a helper whose role is become the psychological support and the technical support for the students. In the current research, the researchers take the theory that the teacher should be a facilitator in fostering LA, where the primary responsibility is planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating, and use Fuller's model of the degree of learner autonomy in language classroom, which includes teacher technical, psychological, and political supports because the activities and roles that teachers does in the class fit together very well within the Indonesian context. This is a qualitative research with exploratory case study because it provides rigor and depth to the research process, as the study only covers a small sample. Guide 2010 states that it is the detailed examination of small sample. It's also supported by Descombe that comments case studies are characterized by in-depth study of one setting with using multiple methods of data collections, which is suited with the current study. The participants of this study will be free English teachers who have teaching experience at a vocational high school in Pati Central Java. So learner autonomy is a part of important thing in the curriculum mandated in the Indonesia, which is called 2013 curriculum, which has the characteristic related to the LA. The school has implemented curriculum 2013, therefore, the teachers, especially English teachers, are expected to understand the concept LA and at the same time has implemented it. The final versions of questionnaire included 26 items that were divided into 4 subscales. Most items in the questionnaire were adapted from the similar studies with slight modification. Those items includes the technical perspective, the psychological perspective, the sociocultural perspective, and the political perspective, while to get the data from the role of teachers in promoting learner autonomy. One item is adapted from teacher role theory in fostering learner autonomy by Fuller. The interviews will be used because previous research has hypothesized that beliefs cannot be directly observed or measured. So the interviews will be conducted to make inferences that would allow for a better understanding of teachers' belief about learner autonomy, while observation guide will be used to get information about teachers' practices regarding learner autonomy. Observation guide it covered stages in learning, teacher role, and student activity that was adapted, which under the focus of teacher's role in learner autonomy, it covers determining objectives, defining content, selecting methods, and monitoring the process and evaluating. An electronic survey will be used because it is fast and it's legal to collect the data. And follow-up interviews will be conducted with teachers who had completed the questionnaire and observation. The teachers who had been interviewed then will be observed in their teaching and learning process. Here, the researcher will also take field notes during the classroom activity. However, as the activity in the pandemic era is conducted virtually, the researcher might involve in the teacher's class group, such as WhatsApp group and the Google Classroom. All questions covered in the questionnaire will be calculated using descriptive statistics. Data from the interview and observation follow Miles and Huberman theory, which includes data reduction, display, conclusion drawing, and verification. In the data reduction, it follows process of coding and categorizing that will use NVIVO codes, which divide the under 2 themes. The teacher perception of LA will be divided under psychological, political, technical, sociocultural, and second, it will be coded under the role of teachers in promoting learner autonomy, which include determining objective, defining context sequence, and evaluating and reflecting for the latter to be drawn a conclusion. Informed consent will be spread to the participants before the study, and then in keeping with the established standards of ethical research, no information that may lead to the identification of any participants will be included in the final report or will be included in any publication of the study finding. And the study considers to pose minimal risk to the participants. The survey, all the data collection technique will be taken in one institution that will have no harm to the research participant.